Bear is rehearsing a pickup line he intends to use on his childhood crush with the help of his friend Ian. He's currently pouring out his heartfelt intentions for her, but this is a restaurant worker who has volunteered to act like his crush, who tells him that he's doing great. Ian, on the other hand, tells him that pouring his heart out or getting a girl gifts to ask her out won't work and suggests various ways to approach the crush. When Bear gets home that evening, he finds his cat Sandy dead on the floor after consuming large amounts of oxycodone prescription drugs. After cleaning up the mess and burying the cat, Bear goes to his room to cry his heart out. While scrolling through his crush's Instagram, he gets a call from Nikki, who turns out to be the girl she's rooting to be with. Nikki shares her disappointment in him canceling their plan to meet up that night when her crystal necklace suddenly falls into the drain. Seeing this as an opening to get Nikki a gift and maybe get her to like him, Bear goes out to a store to get a replacement crystal necklace for Nikki. When he gets to the store, he checks around to get the exact match of the crystal necklace Nikki lost but couldn't find any. His eyes suddenly catches a counter containing a package that says "One Wish Willow" and picks one for himself. He takes it to the cashier to inquire about the product, asking if it really grants wishes. The cashier simply tells him that some people have tested, while it works for some and didn't work for others, implying that some people even came back wishing they had died because of what the wish had done to them. Bear takes this as a joke, saying he's not buying it for himself anyway and it's meant for someone else. In a pub, the group is gathered chatting together, except Bear, who keeps gesturing to Ian to give him space so he can talk to his crush Nikki. Nikki notices the facial movements and calls him out for it. She then goes to grab a drink and Bear follows her. Bear tries to push out his feelings towards her, but their conversation ended up being a friendly chit-chat and they were later joined by the others. Outside the pub, Nikki borrows $20 from their colleague to give to a homeless person around the corner, and this act of kindness deeply touches Bear. While looking for a way to get home, Nikki starts begging Ian to take her home, but Bear shyishly offers to give her a ride home. During the ride, Nikki notices the tension in the air and starts a conversation with Bear. She appreciates how nice Bear is to her as she comments that he's the only one she's always free to discuss anything with, as they actually grew up together. Arriving at her home, Nikki could tell that Bear is hiding something and asks him if he has a crush on one of their colleagues called Sarah. Bear only says he likes her as a friend, so she mentions that if she had a crush on a guy no one would know. Before leaving, she asks Bear if he has anything to tell her, like if he has a crush on her. Even though he clearly does, he tells her he only sees her as a friend. Disappointed, Nikki goes into her house while Bear curses himself for not opening up about his feelings towards Nikki. He looks around and finds the One Wish Willow wrapper and opens it to reveal its content, which sings a brief tune before going silent. He then says to himself that he wishes that Nikki would love him more than anyone in the world and snaps the stick. Not long after, he finds Nikki standing in front of her porch and creepily approaches him to ask if he has something for her. Bear lies, telling her he left it at home. Nikki approaches his own side of the mirror and starts telling Bear that she loves him so much. Bear is struggling to process what's going on when Nikki gets back into his car. He gently tells Nikki to go home, but she suddenly starts sobbing, confessing that her dad's dying because he has cancer. Bear starts feeling bad for her and agrees to take her to his house. When they get to Bear's house, he's so uncomfortable suddenly having his crush on his bed and gets confused about what to do or how to act. Still in the process, Nikki calls Unda to sleep next to her. As she takes off her clothes, Bear only stares in awkwardness. After a while, Nikki starts getting affectionate and starts kissing Bear until she suddenly snaps like she saw something terrifying. Bear asks in fear what the problem was and she apologizes, blaming it on her life traumas. After tucking her to bed so she can sleep, Bear goes to his laptop to research the One Willow wish stick he got from the store. According to other people that has used the product on the site, some of them say that the wishes do come through while some say it's all a lie. Thinking it might just be him overreacting and Nikki genuinely loves him, he decides to go back to sleep, where he finds Nikki already awake, asking where he's been. Bear lies that he went to grab something. The next morning, Bear wakes up alone on the bed and goes to the kitchen, where he finds his dead cat on the floor with some candles and letters around it. At work, Ian pulls Bear aside to gist him about his time with Nikki last night. Ian thinks they had sex, but Bear tells him that that wasn't the case. While talking, they find her sheepishly smiling at Bear for no reason or cause. Bear tells Ian to smile back and reveals to him what she told him last night about her dad having cancer and thinks she's weird and needs some serious help. Ian suspects that she must be on some drugs, telling him not to take her seriously. After work that evening, Bear thinks Nikki wants to join him, but she simply takes her bag and goes with Ian. Later, Bear calls Ian to find out what he's learned about Nikki's condition, to which he replies that she's totally fine and nothing seems to be wrong with her. At that moment, Bear suddenly hears a knock on his door. When he opens it, he's shocked to see that it's Nikki. She confesses that she took something that made her act that way last night and begs for his forgiveness, as she only uses it to deal with the stress of her dad's situation. She goes further to tell Bear that she knows he likes her, as she also feels the same way about him. Bear replies with a smile that he didn't know she felt that way. Following this, the duo spends the night together, and the following days are filled with lovely moments that even make their co-workers and friends jealous of them. One evening in a restaurant, Bear and Nikki are having a conversation when Bear suddenly asks her about her dad. Nikki replies that she doesn't want to talk about it, and Bear receives a call from Ian. He ignores the call to continue his conversation with Nikki, but Ian calls a second time. Left with no choice, Bear decides to answer it. He goes around the corner of the bar where Ian reveals to him that he went to research what Nikki told them about her dad having cancer and learned that she's been lying. Feeling betrayed and manipulated, Bear goes back to their table and confronts Nikki for lying to them. Nikki suddenly snaps and starts yelling for Bear to stop since they're having a nice day. Out of fear of being embarrassed, Bear calms her down and assures her that whatever the reason she had for her to lie to him doesn't matter, as he still loves her. They ended up getting frisky that night, and when Bear woke up at 3 a.m, he doesn't see Nikki. He calls out to her, and she reveals herself to be hiding around the corner of the room. He tries to tell her to come back to bed, but she returns to her hiding spot, and starts crying like a baby, saying she doesn't feel like he loves her. Feeling weirded out, Bear tells her to come back to bed and she refuses, so he ignores her, only to get startled again by Nikki screaming and returning with a flower vase to hide her face. Bear is terrified at this point as he keeps asking what the problem was. Nikki suddenly drops the flower and lays next to Bear. When he tries to leave, Nikki screams at him to stay. In the morning, Bear notices that his hair was cut and asks Nikki about it, and she tells him that she was the one who did it. Bear tells her not to do that again, and she simply replies okay. She gives him the lunchbox she's prepared for him, but Bear only wants to discuss their situation and asks her about last night. Nikki acts surprised as she makes a weird face that creeps Bear out. Before leaving, Bear makes her promise to behave herself while he's gone, but to his shock, Nikki has taped the door shut. After some struggle, Bear can pull the door open and makes his way out of the house, while Nikki stands in the middle of the room as she smiles while relieving herself at the same spot she's standing. At work, Bear opens his food flask, revealing a picture Nikki took while he was asleep. Beside him is Sarah, who complains about how he and Nikki started dating all of a sudden. As it appears that she has a crush on him, their interaction is cut short when their manager shows up to give Sarah a letter that says unfortunately they were unable to admit her into her choice institution. After comforting her, Sarah finds a paperclip that was left in Bear's flask which reads "Guess the verdict, then a cat." Bear finally realizes that Nikki prepared the meal and the meat he's eating is his dead cat, causing him to suddenly throw up. Before leaving work, Ian asks Bear for a ride home. During the ride, Ian shares his suspicions as he thinks Bear is taking advantage of Nikki because of his mental issues and her current situation, but Bear tells him that that isn't the case, and everything's fine. Bear reveals that he knows he's throwing a party and didn't invite them, and Ian tells him that he didn't invite him because he doesn't want Nikki to be there. Eventually, Ian tells him he can come to the party, but he has to come alone. After dropping Ian off, Bear calls the One Wish Willow customer care to tell him about his current situation and asks if there's a way he can alter a wish. The man tells him that there's no way he can alter or reverse a wish. When Bear asks what he can do about his situation, the man only tells him that one of them has to die for the wish to be nullified, and hangs up. When Bear gets home, he's terrified to find Nikki in such an awful state, and all her relives there beneath her as she confesses that she's been waiting for him at the spot throughout the whole day. After begging her to go clean up, Bear shares how upset he was about her cooking the cat, and she apologizes. He then tells her about the party Ian invited him to, saying it's a boys' night out. Nikki refuses to stay alone at home and insists that she must join him. At the party, Ian scolds Bear for bringing Nikki, although everything seems to go nicely until the group decides to play a truth or dare game. When Ian makes a joke about Bear leaving the side of Nikki, her laughs becomes hysterical and weird, causing everyone to stop and look at Bear in shock. When it gets to Nikki's turn to read out what's on her own block, she uses a disturbing voice and scary tone to narrate the whole story, creeping out everyone in the room. Bear pulls out a block that says he has to kiss the person on his left. Nikki makes a sad face and goes close to where Bear is sitting. She pulls Sarah's chair backwards and leans over to kiss Bear, while everyone watches. After telling Bear how much she loves her, She turns to everyone in the room and jokingly tells them that they would die if they ever try to come between her and the love of her life, prompting Ian to ask if she's okay. All of a sudden, Nikki pulls back like she saw something terrifying and grabs a bottle to start smashing it on her face until she starts bleeding. When Bear drives her to the hospital to get some treatment, the people in charge refuse to admit her because of how crazy she's acting. At home, Bear sits in silence as he contemplates the current state of his life. He asks her why she did what she did at the party, and Nikki says she had to do it to scare everyone off as she knows that Sarah likes him. Bear starts freaking out, as she tells her that she's too beautiful to be acting this way. He asks her if she truly likes seeing him being miserable, and Nikki answers yes with a devilish smile. Getting frustrated, Bear tells her they need some space and she needs to go home, causing Nikki to start crying. Bear begs her to return to the normal Nikki he knows, but Nikki falls on her knees as she says she can't be anything unless he tells her to. As if possessed by an entity, Nikki walks back into a dark corner of the room, while Bear screams that she's scaring him. Nikki tells him not to be afraid as she can't harm the love of her life. Nikki confesses that if by any chance he leaves her alone, she's going to do something terrible. That night, Bear couldn't sleep. He gets a text on his phone and manages to pick it up to read the text. It's Sarah who tells him they need to meet at the park as she has something very important to share. Bear replies that he can't, but changes his mind when Sarah says she's coming to him if he doesn't show up. Bear tries sneaking out of the room, but he's caught by Nikki and he lies that he wanted to get some water. Once she's back to sleeping, Bear manages to leave the house to meet Sarah in her car. Sarah shares her concern about how Nikki has been behaving lately, and Bear blames it on her father's illness. Sarah points out that Nikki needs professional help and he shouldn't be the one dealing with her. She goes ahead to confess her feelings for Bear, who's glad to hear that, and proceeds to bring out a letter, only for Nikki to show up and breaks the car window to start smashing Sarah's head on a brick repeatedly until her face is disfigured. She walks down to Bear to tell him that this is all his fault and now he has to help her hide the body. After disposing off Sarah's body, Bear gets in his car and opens the letter Sarah was about to show him to read the content, which says that she's been accepted into an art school she applied for. Bear breaks down in tears and goes out to find a solution. First, he gets to the store where he bought the one Will-O-Wish card and asks the new cashier if there's anyone left so he can reverse it. The man shows him the counter with the remaining card. After taking out the last pieces in order, Bear makes a wish to reverse his previous wish, but the stick doesn't snap as the rules explain that each person only gets one wish. Frustrated, he goes to Ian's house to ask for help. He explains everything to Ian, who's terrified. Ian doesn't believe that a random card could grant such a wish, and Bear manages to convince Ian to make a wish with the card by saying he never made a wish, but instead Ian wishes for $1 billion, which suddenly starts falling from the sky to his shock, while Bear looks at him in disappointment. When Bear returns home, he's shocked to find that Nikki has built a mini shrine with their picture in it. He brings out another card when he notices Sarah's naked and mutilated body sitting in their living room. Bear finds Nikki smoking around the corner while screaming, "Why doesn't he love her?" Covered in her own blood with a gun in her hand, she starts approaching Bear to demand answers. At that moment, Ian enters the house and Nikki shoots him dead. Nikki then makes Bear scream that he loves her and they share a hug. Afterwards, Bear goes to the bathroom and tries to shoot himself. Since he doesn't have the mind to do so, he takes the pills his grandma left behind and takes a bunch of it. At that moment, he hears the one Willow card ringing and then snaps. He struggles to get the drugs out of his system, but he's too late. It turns out Nikki has snapped the one wish Willow card she found and has wished for Bear to be obsessed with her. As they share a kiss, Bear suddenly collapses dead. While Nikki cries in pain over her loss and tries to end her life, she suddenly snaps out of her trance and realizes the bodies around her and starts to cry. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and would love to see more, please like and